Welcome everybody to the next episode of Veterinary Ramblings. My name is Mike Brampton.
And my name's Julian Hode. Mike, was that an Australian hat?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Well, that's a coincidence because tonight we've got an Australian person on. We've got a human nurse.
Yep.
But I tell you, she's going to tell us a story unlike one you've ever imagined before.
Absolutely. It'll make your toes curl. And we'll also discover the significance of one chicken nugget. We'll hear about World Championship wheelchair tennis around the world, Ned Kelly, kangaroos, snakes, kangaroos, sharks, and why there's a can in every can't.
Let's have her on, shall we? This is the wonderful Marny Cringle.
Hi, I'm Mike Brampton.
And my name is Julian Hode.
Welcome to Veterinary Ramblings. Here she is.
Hello, gentlemen. How are you?
We're excellent. How are you?
Pretty good, thank you.
Looking behind you there, Marny, I can see you've got a big poster thing in all frames, nice poster picture that says Marny to get bionic leg. Now, that came after a long series and a lot of stuff. So can we wind the clock right the way back? Because once upon a time, you were a nurse at the Royal Free Hospital in London?
At the Royal Free Hospital in London. I was working their trauma units for a few years, which was fantastic.
Right. And then one day you ended up being a patient there.
Not at the Royal Free. I was friends with the ambulance drivers and we used to socialise outside of work and do fundraisers and had a good time. And when I was ran over by a tube train in London, and in a city of London, I don't know however many people, 12 million. The two ambulance drivers that came and picked me up came to me was two of my friends from the Royal Free who presented there. It was incredible. Well, obviously I was unconscious at the time, wasn't aware.
Right.
But and they were really affected by it. It was devastating.
I'm sure.
The main injuries, I lost my left leg.
Right.
It was removed straight away. But that wasn't my main injuries, that was just minor. So they actually left that. They didn't even attend to that. They left it open for over a week. And when I continued to survive, they closed it up. And then, because I was paralysed down my left side with my brain injuries, I had massive head injuries. And when I got the meningitis, and because I'd had several parts of my brain removed, they just said, look, it's really not worth a while living. So they turned my life support off. And then I just woke, I don't remember waking up, but I just kept on surviving. And then I was paralysed down my left side for a while. And when I had the first cast for my prosthesis, I couldn't even stand for it. I was held upright with metal clamps around the waist. But I was just determined. I had to walk, and I couldn't do anything for myself. I just had to walk, and it was within 1 month I progressed to a leg with a knee bend. Right. And I walked with that, and I set a goal that I was going to walk out of hospital because I was being pushed in the wheelchair everywhere, and I thought I just want to stand and take a couple of steps in this leg, which I managed to do, and I'd progressed to a bent knee by that stage. Then when I came home to Australia, it sort of lasted about, 2 months, because my stump was shrinking, and I thought it was just a minor adjustment. All they'd have to do was whatever, and they just couldn't do it, and they couldn't make any adjustments to my London leg. I kept on saying, it's just because my stump was only about 5 centimetres long, and I just said, it's so painful walking. And they just said, you have to realise that you're above an amputee. It's always going to be a bit uncomfortable. And I said, I know, but I've got a very high pain threshold, and this is like. So I ended up going to my GP, and I said, something is wrong here. So I said, can you do an X-ray? So I did the X-ray, and I'd grown 3 spurs, and one was sticking out the side, one was that side, one was pointed down. Then it defied gravity and came back up my stump, and it was 7 centimeters long. And that was, and I thought, oh, so then I looked around New South Wales for a good surgeon, and I chose a surgeon, went to Sydney and had the operation, and they did it. And I woke up that night after the operation, I thought, the spur is still inside me. The main spur that was 7 centimeters long, that was still there. And I said, what? This, and he said, no, we'd have to make your stump shorter. And, I said, my whole reason is just to get that one spur like the other 2. So then I had to wait months again. And I looked for another surgeon, and I thought, well, I'll just choose the same surgeon because at least he's been in there before. So I had it done again. And then it was removed, and then there was a lot of pain again. And so I had that, and then I put on some weight because I wasn't being able to move, and then went back to the limb maker, and they said, look, and they kept on trying and doing all these things in different legs, and said, we just can't make it because you're too big. And I wasn't, I'd put on weight, but I wasn't. And I said, okay, so that's what I have to do. That's what I have to do. So then I started swimming and being more active, and I was swimming 2Ks every day in the pool.
Gosh.
And within 9 months, I'd lost 26 kilos.
Wow.
I went back to him, and he couldn't make it. So I thought, leave that there, sort of see you later. Thank you. And so I was asking around, and someone told me in Sydney it was one of the best prosthetists there. So I went down there, and sure enough, he took me on, and he was fantastic. And I'd drive to Sydney, a 3-hour trip, sometimes longer, and some day I'd be up to 4 times a week.
Wow.
And sometimes the meeting might have only been an hour to make minor adjustments, and we tried different types of legs, and we tried doing all these strategies, and I did that for 10 years.
10 years?
Yeah, for 10 years with this prosthetist. And then he said, look, we have tried everything. And I'd maintain my weight because I got down to 36 kilos, and it was that was too low for me. Because when I was playing wheelchair tennis and I was number 1, I just didn't have the energy and the strength. So I actually put on 10 kilos before I went to the limb maker in Sydney. I put on 10 kilos, so I got up to 46. And then I've remained that ever since that time. And after 10 years, he just said, look, we just have to discharge you. So then after that, I thought, no, I have to walk because I was working on my crutches.
Mm-hmm.
And because I was so active, I'd torn the ACL in the right leg, and it was collapsing on me, and they wanted to do a knee replacement. I said, no way. And in my accident, I'd broken 5 discs in my back, and one of those breaks was 1/4 of a millimetre from making me a paraplegic. So I was wearing the disc away my back, and they said, you'll end up in a wheelchair one day because it'll gradually grind its way through. And I had to get spinal blocks every year. And I thought, I need this leg. So if I had to walking on 2 legs, at least it would take some of the pressure off. So I got on the internet, and I was going every country, anyone with a short prosthesis, what they could possibly do. And I was filling in forms for any website I came across in whatever country. And then probably about 18 months, 2 years later, I was at work on my crutches in the hospital, and I got this phone call from a young surgeon, and it was Munjed Almadiras. And I told him my experiences that I'd had. And he said, well, come to Sydney and I'll see if I can help you. So I thought, rightio. So the next week, I drove to Sydney, and I spoke to Munjed, and he said, have you told about my previous operations? And he said, have you had radiation? I said, yes, because I had to have it to prevent the spurs from returning. He looked at my X-ray and he said, sorry, can't help you because your stump is just too short. But then he just put the X-rays on this screen, And he just sat there looking at x-rays for about 10 minutes. And I didn't say a word because I had a good feeling about this. So I just sat there and waited. And then in the end, he just said, you know what? We might be able to do this. He said it's never been done anywhere in the world before, so I don't know if it's going to work. And I said, well, if it doesn't work, I'm going to be no worse off. I can't walk anyway. So that was the beginning of a life-changing situation. So the next month, I went to Sydney and I had an operation to have an external fixator put on the side. What they did was they broke what was the 5 centimetres of my femur bone, broke that in half. They put the external fixator below and above the break, and it was sticking out the side of my hip, and it had a screw on the end of it, and I had to lengthen my femur bone 1/4 millimetre every 6 hours. And very painful. They weren't aware of how painful it was because it'd never been done before on an amputation. So I'd set my alarm every 6 hours, and he said, look, we don't know if it's going to work. So every 10 days, I had to drive to Sydney again and just do an x-ray to see if it was lengthening. And every 10 days, sure enough, it had grown 1 centimetre. And so I was having milkshakes and eating cheese and sitting in the sun for 8 minutes every day. And I was working, nursing, with this external fixator on the side of me on crutches. And
Goodness me.
if I had known how painful it was going to be, I don't know if it was just, and I went to pain sped, nothing would control it. And I had to work and drive, and it was just, and they've decided now that they'll never do that again. They've got other things in place. But anyway, I just kept on going. And then every time I'd go to Sydney every 10 days, a couple of times, you'd see, okay, we're going to stretch this a little bit longer. So we'd stretch it, turn it a couple of times, and go, then it was fine, but I'd be feeling it the next day. And then I thought, if this is what it needs to take, I thought I'll do it. So, and then Munji wanted me to go an extra, 20 days. And I said, look, we kept on lengthening every 10 days, and we got to the 12 centimetres. I wanted to go a bit more, so I went a little bit more just in case something.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to go further again. I said, no. I said, so we did that, and then I said, we're not out of the woods yet because we really don't know, when it hasn't been done before, if you're going to consolidate.
Sure.
So I had the external fixator removed, and I think it was about 2 months later or however long later, went back, and Germany had to make an implant that was 12 centimetres long for the osseointegration process. So Germany had made the implant, and Munji had designed it, and they'd done x-rays and CTs, and we sent it over there, and Munji got that together, and then it was ready to put the implant in. So they inserted the implant up through the middle of the femur bone, and that settled down for a while. And then I gradually, it was painful, but it was going to get me walking again. So I gradually got walking. I'd started on 2. Initially I had to do some loading, and I had to load up to 52 kilos for the leg because I'm one of the first ones to have osseointegration in Australia. And I didn't even weigh 52 kilos. And I had to pull on the exercise bars to pull up there to get it on the, and then I had all this pain from, I said, this is, because they changed different processes from what I've been to, and that was great. And then so I walked, I had 2 crutches at first because we didn't know how the bone was going to react. And then I went to 1 crutch, and then I went to no crutches, and then I started walking. It was fantastic. And then I had this prosthesis. It was just a regular one, and they realised because I had the longest leverage in the world because being with the stump, and the leg just kept on collapsing underneath me. And it doesn't matter how correctly I was walking, I'd just be walking. I was in here one day in my office, and I was walking, and at the end of this desk, there's a point, and I fell over on the leg and knocked myself unconscious back there. And there was, when I regained consciousness, there was blood on the floor, and I had to drive to the GPs. And I said, "Can you just stitch me up?" And then I rang Munjed, and he said, "Look, you're going to break your hip or something. You can't have that leg. The only leg that's going to be suitable for me is a bionic leg." Mm-hmm. And like, it was 60 grand, so I thought it was just out of the question for the leg. And then so I did processes in place, and that's the only leg I could have. So then put things in place to actually get this leg, and I needed it as soon as possible. So I went on TV because people heard about me being the TV program, Channel 3, heard about me lengthening my femur bone. And then when I was on TV for that, someone else saw me from another TV channel. And Chris, they then followed my surgeries that I was having with osseointegration because I was the first in the world for it. So they followed me for a couple of years, and how I was progressing and, like, you know, playing the music. And then I was on the Sunday night program with Chris Bath and with Munjed to how it developed. And I actually was supported in getting the sea leg. And it was just fantastic. And now I've got this sea leg. I feel so tall because I've been on crutches. I was still on crutches every day. And I thought, I'm only 5'1", but I was so tall and I was standing up straight and just to have my hands free again. And the leg, you knew the difference, how solid it was, and you know how supportive it was and is. And it's just brilliant. And like, I have to charge it every night. Make sure, plug it in, charge it up. Yep. Cool. And I can't go near water or sand with it. So I have a aquatic leg, but this is just brilliant, this sea leg. It's just fantastic. It's just back to normal again. And I have little party tricks with it. Of course, when the train hit me, it sort of twisted my hips around a bit. And then I was sitting next to Munjed in hospital when I was recovering, and I was trying to stick my legs together, and it just was out to the left, and said, "You can't be like that." So I've got this adapter on the leg, and sort of when I sit down, I can move it. And with this adapter, I can do party tricks. I can turn it upside down. Look, I can put my drink on here, you can rest it there.
I can't do that. That's pretty amazing.
Some people it's developed for the Asian countries because when they sit down, they sit cross-legged. So there was this little at the knee joint where I can, and getting in the car, it's fantastic. And then it's just because now I'm still nursing, but I'm not on crutches. It's just I adapted, you know, into however, but it's just so much better having your hands free. And I haven't had a spinal block since I've got my prosthesis. I'm the bionic leg. I haven't needed a spinal block because I'm not relying on the crutches and every day with it.
You're not weight loading the upper part of your spine anymore.
No. And my hands, I was having problems with my shoulders. Because I was full on, I was pretty active working on the crutches. So it's just such a relief.
You say on your website that one of the things you've been looking forward to do was to actually be able to stand and hug someone at the same time.
Yeah, just being able to cuddle someone with two hands, and you'd have crutches and they'd be in the way. Yeah. But just being able to just give someone a hug, just as simple as that.
That's just, God, what a journey.
You can adapt. There's always a way. Just look for the solutions, and there's possibilities. It's just adapt.
Well, that started with your refusals to die, obviously, and I love the way you said, yeah, and then the meningitis, yeah. We'll just brush over that one.
We'll see, because when the accident, like I had, my left leg was ripped off immediately.
Right. Yeah.
My right leg was semi-detached. My left hand was dangling by a thread. My eyes had been squeezed out of their sockets and were hanging out of my head.
Oh my God.
Lord.
And brain particles were wrenched out and scattered across the tracks. My skull was so badly smashed and shattered that later the doctors likened it to an eggshell that had been dropped from a 10-story building.
Wow.
Yet I was still alive.
Do you consider yourself lucky, Marny?
I've got my hospital notes and I read them, and I'd been working the trauma units in London for 3 years.
Mm.
And I had seen some people that were hit by a train and no one had survived.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I got them in, like, yeah, I'm here for a good reason. I'm here for something, like, and I think, well, I have to use my experiences, and I'm nothing special. I'm just like you. It's just look at things the right way and just persevering, think, well, and just being patient and persistent. Like, you can't be positive all the time and you can fly off the handle, but just, yeah, you get through it. Just.
What's the name of your book going to be called then?
Well, I've been writing it for 5 years and it will be out this year.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to be, I think, small steps, big outcomes, because even when I was from child before my accident and even after my accident, it's just the small steps can lead to big outcomes. I thought, even when I was in hospital, the first thing after I aimed for after my accident was some form of independence.
Mm-hmm.
And on the 13th of December, I sat up in bed for the first time after regaining consciousness, and I needed assistance to sit up. I lifted my head off the pillow, and when my head was not supported, I could stay there briefly, and then I just lost control of my head and trunk.
Right.
But I was so excited about this because I had improved slightly. It was hard emotionally and physically, but it was confronting because I was not able to do what my mind wanted me to do.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it was a small win just the same. And in the physical condition I was in, I had to celebrate any small gain because I could not do anything on my own.
Right.
At that point, I was too weak to speak. I was only capable of watching what was going on around me, but I was determined to be independent again and walk again. You know, it was like, as I said, it was about a couple of weeks after my accident, and I had the first cast of my prosthesis to get me going, and I was held up with metal clamps around my waist. But with extensive efforts, I progressed to a leg with a knee bend within 1 month.
Mm-hmm.
And the time frame for this amount of progress varies and can take up to 12 months to achieve. I was just determined to walk again one day. But on the 25th of January, I had a great day as I was taken for my first walk outside in a wheelchair along Westminster Bridge. And this is where I ate my first piece of solid food in about 8 weeks.
Wow.
A chicken nugget.
Whoa, easy, Tiger.
Yeah. Yeah.
There you go.
Up until then, I was fed by a nasogastric tube.
Yep.
And I was only allowed to sip thickened fluids because of how affected my whole body had been by the accident.
Wow.
But I just wanted to eat and taste real food. So I cautiously took a small bite and I managed to swallow it. Not standard medical recommendations at that stage, but it was glorious. It was it is hard to believe, but that one chicken nugget meant so much to me at the time. And it's just those little steps like that just have made so much difference. And that was just when I was still in hospital. That's not my 16-year journey and everything I've gone through to get my leg. And but if you can be patient and persevere, being resilient, you can adapt in some ways. It's not great all the time, but if you're determined enough, it's amazing.
It sounds like every step of your journey you've made the most. Tell us more about this wheelchair tennis.
Oh, because I was when I was living, because I had to live in the Braintree unit for a year when I came back to Australia. And while I was living in the Braintree, I knew I wanted to get back to nursing, and I thought to get there, I have to increase my fitness level. I'm going to be working on crutches. So then I was swimming every day, doing 2 kilometres every day. And within 12 months, I was competed in the state championships of swimming, and I won 5 gold medals. I also represented New South Wales in dressage with riding for the disabled. I was cantering around on a horse. And then there was a friend of mine was trying to get me into, I played sitting volleyball, and everyone was trying to get me into basketball. Okay. And I wasn't interested in, I've never been interested in netball, basketball, and they were trying to get me into wheelchair basketball. I said no. So I went along with him to a wheelchair basketball. And when I was there, someone said about wheelchair tennis. I said, what? Wheelchair tennis? So then, I thought, I aimed at tennis. So I went to this, I played, there was Sydney International for wheelchair tennis. So I just went in my red wheelchair that I had in hospital in London, and I just played in a normal wheelchair in the international competition. And I hadn't played, and I came runner-up against a gentleman in these roundovers. And then this guy who had developed wheelchair tennis, an older gentleman, he saw me and said, what are you doing in this chair? I said, this is a wheelchair I've got for tennis. And I didn't realise at that stage he had cambered wheelchairs for tennis. So he said, no, we're going to get you into tennis. I thought, fantastic. So with Wheelchair Sports New South Wales, David Hall, I had a chair of his, and I used that chair for wheelchair tennis. And within a year, I was seated number 1 in Australia, travelling nationally and internationally in major sporting events. Wow. And it was brilliant. It was great. And I spent 6 months, because I was winning fairly easily here in Australia. It was number 1, and I was travelling around nationally. And then I wanted to be a Paralympian. I was going to go to Beijing. So I thought, no, to go to Beijing, because I had the ranking, I thought I had the seeding, I had to get my ranking position. So I thought, I'll go to America, and I did some tournaments in America. So I travelled there, and I got positions there. I got medals there. And so I was right. So I thought, okay, and I had my world ranking was up to 42, because the more you travelled, and the more competitions you can play in, it increases. So I was number 1 in Australia with a world rank of 42, and I thought, I've got there. I'm there to Beijing. But then when Beijing came, it was a bit political, and I wasn't sent. So
that's a shame.
So, which was a shame when I'd done all that. So with the political reasons, and I just pulled out of tennis, and I loved it, but it was great. And I played I didn't play against people. I'd travel to Sydney every day to play with some guys at Homebush in a wheelchair, but just locally. I'd just play in the able-bodied competitions with everyone else on a Monday night or whenever, and it was fantastic. It was great. It was brilliant. So and I'd just go and play in the wheelchair tennis competitions, but I just played locally against everyone, because with me, like you're in wheelchair tennis, you're allowed a 2 bounce rule, but at the elite level I was playing it, like you'd very rarely use it. If they do a drop shot over the net, it was a bonus to get those 2 bounces.
I always allow myself a 2 bounce rule when I'm playing. sometimes 3.
As long as you're out there enjoying it, that's the main
In fact,
thing.
if it lands flat and I can scoop it, that's a taker as well.
Well, I've been contacted because when I went to America and I was playing intense, like I also tore disc in my back and I had to have another spinal block and I was laying flat. And it's only like the end of this year I've been approached and they want me to get adaptive tennis going in the state.
Adaptive tennis.
Adaptive tennis. And I thought, well, I said before they wanted me to, they had an adaptive tennis locally because when I was number 1 in Australia, I helped my coach get a grant for his tennis court. And they've 13 courts there with grass courts. They've left 1 court for me, a hard court.
Right.
For wheelchair tennis.
Right.
And the wheelchair, I was approached and said, let's get adaptive tennis going. They said, we'll organise this day. It was in 2 weeks' time. And I couldn't attend because I was asked by the Lions Club to do a speech for them.
Right.
And so I haven't been able to play adaptive tennis with anyone. I thought once I have a go, once they can organise for me to play adaptive tennis with people, well, then I'll be on board and trying to get that running in the state.
Pardon me for asking, Marny. What is adaptive?
Well, I can't. I haven't played it yet. It's just you don't have to be in a wheelchair to play. Like it's anyone of any age. You can have a disability. You can not have a disability. Using the full-size court, the normal rules. I just don't know. It's just a social hit. So I have to look more into it. I just quickly had a look on the net. It was going in America, but it was big, and I thought, well, I don't want to get on I just want to experience it first, and whoever's around me, I'll be able to develop and promote it in the state here. So
right.
And
learning curve. See what happens this year with it.
Wow.
And you're still working as a nurse?
Yeah, I'm still I'm in a doctor's surgery doing chronic disease management, and I also work in the hospitals, which is fantastic. But
and is that a full-time job? Is it part-time?
It's part-time, but I'm really trying to get into speaking. So that's why I've written my book. And I've been writing for 5 years, and I thought it's not going to be perfect. And it's just explain what I've overcome in my life, just little things. And I thought and I've mentioned everything. So once the book's out there are different areas that people might want me to speak on. So all I have to, because there was a lot of with my mother passing away and this surgery, so I thought all I have to do now is I've written it, but I just want to go back, and then I didn't do anything last year. I just want to read over and put my emotions into it. That's all I have to do. Write some emotions, and then I'll send it to my publisher to get it done. And then I just want to I want to create value for people. And so that it's
You do speak. You do talks, don't you? And supportive talks. And
I did not at all last year with COVID,
right?
But I did all these courses, and I'm with this group at the moment having Zoom lessons to help me get some speaking together. And I did a fundraising event last year, but I wanted to try and get into. I just wanted, because I was speaking for Rotary and Probus or senior citizens, and when I had wheelchair tennis, I spoke at schools for that. But I thought I just want to, people would ring me at the last minute and say, can you talk about this? And then so I'd write notes and what they wanted to remind what they wanted to talk about. And I thought, well, no, I want to develop this talk that I don't need notes for. This is my experience. And then I could just adapt that to whoever I'm talking to. So that's what I'm developing. I just want to do at the moment. And I really love nursing, and I will continue it, but I want my main job to be hopefully speaking.
So I've been privileged enough in my time to work with some very interesting people, like the psychologist Steve Peters at British Cycling, and David Brailsford is always one for talking about incremental gains, and that if you can make a 1% difference in one area, and you make a 1% difference in 20 areas, that builds to a major impact in whatever it is that you're doing. So your story reminds me very much of that sort of thing, in that you went piece by piece by piece. So is that sort of part of your message? Is that what you want to sort of convey to people, is making each small difference and being thankful with every small gain that you get?
Yeah, just one step at a time. You know, it's just and celebrating small wins as well.
Right.
You know, it's just being patient and persevering. Like with my brain injury, I couldn't move my left side, and my left side is still weaker now. But you know, trying to walk, because I've got a left leg amputation, so trying to get, when I was in hospital in London, but when I came home, because I almost lost my left hand, there was a hole through it, and I love the violin. I've been playing since I was an infant, and the doctors in London believe that's why I've recovered so well, because I've learned violin music from such a young age.
Right.
But I've been playing the violin, even though I could still play, and having to use the bow and the fingers with my left side. That was probably the best form of exercise I could use for my brain for recovery. And I've got, you know, Norman Doyle's brain that changed itself. It's remarkable. It's just
amazing.
And things like that you can't do straight away. And then I read my hospital note and I'm thinking, because I had my right frontal lobe was ripped out completely, and there was a piece of brain in each lobe that were just gone, but other areas of my brain have taken over, and it's just when I first came back, there was a heaviness in my head, and like if I'd move my eyes, my head would I thought I just had to. It was just a gradual process, and it can get there. So I had to remain determined. If I just threw it in through the towel, I thought, no, I wouldn't be as good as I am today. I wouldn't achieve. But it's just amazing what we're actually capable of when we really want to.
Have you always been a positive person, Marny?
Yeah.
Have you always been determined? You mentioned the violin. Will you play us a tune now?
Oh.
Yeah.
I'll play something brief.
What we normally do, you see, Marny, is we have a section on the show called 60 Seconds CD.
I don't know how in tune it is. I've just been asked to play for the very popular theatre company, I think it's called, for chess. Because we were going to play it last year and it was cancelled with COVID.
Right.
But I was asked yesterday, and I think it's on in next month sometime. The cast has been playing, so we do a couple of rehearsals, so that'll be good.
Fantastic.
I don't know. Hey Ma, it's a little Irish tune, just I haven't played it for a long God. See if I remember it. That's Hey Ma.
Wow, that's fantastic.
That's fabulous.
I can't remember it. I remember an old guy was playing it somewhere, and old guy said, it's played, and I go, and but an accordion. I think the words are, hey Ma, when I go home, boys can't leave the girls alone, or something.
That's something. There's quite an Irish connection there, isn't there? There's quite an Irish connection in the area that you live in, isn't there?
Oh, yeah, there's some Irish pubs around, but don't run into a lot of Irish.
Oh, I think there's a bit of.
I think there's a lot of Irish around this year.
I think there's a particularly famous Irishman from near your area, isn't there? He used to he became quite famous because I think he he built himself a suit of armour, and he took on the constabulary. Did he not? His name was Ned Kelly.
Old Ned.
Old Ned. The way you say that, Marny, makes you. Oh, well, not Ned again. No.
Oh, Ned.
Oh, Ned. Yeah.
He's the ne'er-do-well of the area. We don't
Yeah, we don't talk about Ned. Yeah, I know his cousin, you know. And did you know? I mean, you and I met for the first time just over a year ago, didn't we? And
Yes, yeah.
And I remember it quite well. I was furious when I got back to Sydney and found out where I'd been and how close I'd been to the home of Ned Kelly and his grandmother's house, which is now, I think, just a chimney stack in a field. But I was most disappointed I found that out retrospectively. And I had the privilege of being able to go off and do a bit of travelling down the east coast of Australia.
Yeah.
And was very, very proud when somebody described me as a bushranger. because I thought, right, I heard the word ranger. This is a good thing, because I was thinking of like the rangers, the park rangers in America who look after all the wildlife and the national park.
And are friends to Yogi Bear.
And are friends to Yogi Bear and people like that. Well, I'd had a run-in with the constabulary in Queensland, and had fled the state of Queensland, and somebody said that I was a bushranger, and I misunderstood, because I thought they were talking about my interactions with kangaroos and Australian wildlife, and it turned out that bushranger in Australia is not a very good thing to be, is it, Marny?
No. Some people, he's famous, but some people think, well, this idolising this guy who killed everyone.
Yeah, I have to say, I didn't kill anybody whilst I was in Australia. It was a little misunderstanding. It was a little
misunderstanding. Had movies made about him, yeah, he's on there, but and his tin head.
It was 18 something, wasn't it?
Oh, in the 1800s.
1800s or something like this. But a lot of our viewers and listeners are from America. And so here's this bushranger Ned, and he got himself his bulletproof vest on, and he decided he'd walk out and take on all of the constabulary, and I think he forgot to cover his legs and his arms, didn't he?
Yeah.
Rookie error.
What are you going to go for?
Rookie error. If you're going to walk out in a suit of armour, make sure you've got your legs and your arms covered as well.
That's right. Hold on a minute, guys. Just going back in for my sleeves. Ow, that was not fair. That was not. Ow.
Oh dear.
Especially with you wouldn't know how many snakes were around back those days either. You'd have to protect yourself in the bush.
I never saw it. I tell you, there's two things. Well, there's three things that I was warned about Australia. One was snakes, one was spiders, and the other one was crocodiles. You'll never guess, Julian, what I didn't see whilst I was in Australia for over a month.
Was it snakes and crocodiles?
Keep going.
You see some sharks, though?
No, I didn't.
Well, there we go. So there's that as well.
I wasn't warned about sharks, because I probably wasn't going to go swimming in the right place to see sharks. And
the spiders.
They don't exist.
They don't exist, do they? Or do you have a cuddly creatures there? I've seen them.
Yeah.
Oh.
They're little bears that go like that, and they're really cuddly, big koala bears.
I was going to work one day, and I just felt like someone was watching me, and I just turned my head and looked out my garage, and across the road were these 3 kangaroos. And I thought, oh wow, like less than 50 metres away. I thought, this is fantastic. But then, and when I started the car, they drove off. But then I've had a lot of run-ins with snakes.
Have you?
Where I grew up in acres, and I was riding the horse in the paddocks around us. We jumped over this tree trunk that had fallen over, and when we jumped over it, we saw a brown snake with the babies there, and Felicity, my horse, shied in midair, And then when she landed, I fell off. And then she bolted home, and I just froze and thought, where is this snake? And then I just bolted home probably as fast as Felicity. Got in the yard. She was down the horse's paddock, so I didn't say anything to Mum. I just got inside the house. So I just lied on the lounge. Then I heard this thud in between the legs. And then I looked down, and it was a baby brown snake. And so I looked behind at Mum, and she was just reading a newspaper or something. And so I just froze. And then it just went under my left thigh and into the lounge. And I jumped up and then between Christmas and New Year this year, and I almost trod on, it was a mother brown. She was about 1.5 meters. And I thought, oh my God. So I put my prosthesis to it, and I thought you can wrap yourself around that one. And because I'll just get moving with Harley, just making no vibrations. I realised, I just went and checked around all my fly screens. When I did that, I realised that under the fly screen, it wasn't rubber how I used to where I grew up with. It was just brush. So it can easily get under the fly screen. So I had to quarter myself off, and then the snake catchers were on holidays because of the time of year, and he just stayed here for 3 days. And I knew because I had the kookaburras come, and they sit on my back porch, and I had the magpies come and the peewees, and they weren't coming anywhere for 3 days. And then no one would come to my house to just help get rid of it. So I ended up getting a friend to bring the mower around and make some noise, and that got him away. But that's one of the second deadliest ones in the world. So that's why I thought, yeah.
I deal with a few snakes in my practice. Not very often, but I'm the only one in the practice who tends to see them. And about 4 years ago, I had a client phone up, quite a sensible client, and he's a bit about it. He said, Julian, I've no idea where it's come from, but we've got a hooded cobra in the back garden. I said, you're kidding? He said, yeah, we've trapped it under a plant pot, but you have the contact number for someone to go and get it. And I said, look, you don't really get anyone to go and get it because I've tried before. I'll come along. I've got my snake catching gear. I'll come along. Are you certain? They said, yeah, absolutely certain. It's a small one, but we're certain. I said, okay. So I thought, just in case it's a spitting cobra, I'll take a visor. I took my thick gloves and my little pointy snake catching stick and a bag, and I went along, and I told them to stay inside the house, and they were there, downing these whiskey as quickly as you could. and there was this huge plant pot, 2-3 feet high plant pot in the middle of their patio that they'd whacked upside down onto this thing, and I lifted one end up, slowly got down, looked at it, flipped the plant pot over, took my gloves off, and picked up this little bitty grass snake. It was so cute. It was that big. And I put it in my pocket, and I said to them, I'll take it to the park and let it out. They went, not a hooded cobra. I said, no, grass snake. Not venomous? No, absolutely harmless. Sorry for wasting your time.
Oh, goodness me.
Yeah, we don't tend to get too many nasties out here, do we?
I met a couple of kangaroos whilst I was there, and was taken.
You were beaten up by one.
No, I wasn't beaten up by it. No, I gave as good as I got.
He was beaten up, Marny. He was by a
yeah.
I did actually get the boot. I was crouching at the time and felt this thing on my neck. I thought, I wonder what that is. Looked over my shoulder to see this bloody great roux grabbing hold of my collar. I thought, this is interesting. And as I started to stand up, she got a proper purchase. And she gave me a kick with the back legs. It sort of glanced off my hip. She then ran off down the beach with a couple of her relatives, was explaining in sort of very, very roughy-tufty terms how she'd seen the pom off. Yeah, amazing. Amazing. That was quite an experience, getting beaten up by a kangaroo at dawn on Australia.
And I've travelled a lot of places in the world, and a lot of places I love, but it's so great here being home.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of extremes, but you get through it, and in the fire, it's just drastic, For people, it makes people strong. People wouldn't agree with it, makes them stronger, because if dealing with so much, and some floods, some fires, but it's everyone supports one another, and you rally together somehow, and everyone gets through.
There's a real can-do attitude, isn't there? It's and it's
there's a can in every can't. You just look at what you can do, and just
I like that. I've not heard that one before.
I like that too.
Yeah.
It's very good.
That's one of my mantras. There's a can in every can't. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I like
what you can do.
That's brilliant stuff. So tell me, Julian.
Yes.
We've sort of diverted from our usual format to have Marny tonight. Normally, Julian prepares a CPD certificate, because normally we do sort of clinical CPD and things around that. So to a certain extent, we've sort of covered some of that on the medical side already. But
I think we have, because one of the most important and most overlooked aspects of CPD these days is mental well-being. And I think Marny has shown us how incredibly important it is to maintain that mental well-being. Your positive mental attitude and your positivity generally has got you through. It's me. I mean, more injuries, more personal distress than the majority of us would see in our entire ancestry over the course of many generations, and I think that certainly is worthy of a certificate. And so I have prepared one just in case we did that. So here we go. Now, what I've done, I thought you could probably read that. It's upside down. There you go. So let's turn that upside down. There we go. And it says this certifies that all you possums have been in the presence of a megastar CPD provider yet again. And it's signed in deference to your country. It's signed Bruce and Bruce. And obviously we've got some kangaroos there.
Yeah.
Kangaroos, all Skippy there, all Skip.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what Mike doesn't know is, although I've never been to Australia, I'm actually quite an accomplished surfer. So there's me surfing. This I thought may be quite apt. So here we go. This is a rather gloomy picture of a very thunderstormy mountain view.
But you get some great sceneries up high, beautiful views.
Now here is the same mountain. This is seen during the day. This is Aiguille de Petit Vert, which I climbed a few years back. And in the evening, the following morning, we got this. So I thought it was rather apt that actually, even in the gloomiest of times, although there may be a mountain to climb, there's often a very bright dawn at the end of it that's worth waiting for.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Spot on.
My CPD certificate.
I think that's lovely.
That's brilliant. So
Well
true.
done.
So
Well
true.
done. It is a requirement that we have to reflect on the CPD that we have either presented or received. So would you be kind enough to join us in a moment's reflection on our meeting today, please?
Yes, certainly.
How fabulous is that?
Great. Well reflected.
I don't know.
I shall raise a toast to you for that, Marny, and for an amazing CPD, amazing positivity amazing story. Can I ruin it by telling an awful joke?
Hit us with it.
What's your joke about tonight, then, Julian?
So it's about a man and a woman who the woman says to the man that they've been married for a long time. She says, if I die, would you sell the house? He said, well, if you die, that's awful. What do you mean if you die, will I sell the house? An awful thing to say. God, I can't ruin the day. I can't think of something like that. That's awful. Why do you even mention that? It's been bothering me. No, okay. What I said, no, I wouldn't sell the house. I don't know. It's a nice house. I like it. I'll stay. She said, okay. Well, would you sell the bed? Would you leave the subject alone? I don't want to think about this. It's awful. She said, I just want to know. Would you sell the bed? Well, it's a good bed. Why would I sell it? No, I wouldn't sell the bed. Ridiculous. Well, what about our crockery that we collected together? Oh, look, please leave the subject. I just want to know. All right. Well, no, it's decent crockery. Why would I wouldn't sell it. I keep it. It's nice crockery. Well, would you sell my golf clubs? No, she's left-handed. She couldn't use them.
Oh, God, here we go. All right, then, you ready?
Go on, then.
A spider, a snake, and a kangaroo walk into a bar.
Mm-hmm.
Normal day in Australia. Marny, can I say it's lovely to see you again? It really is.
Leila, it's great seeing you again. I'm lovely to meet you, Julian.
And you, lovely. Really nice.
And I have to say, thank you so much for sharing so much in such a way with us. It's been quite...
I'm just really grateful that to have me speak with you today. And thank you for asking me. It's great.
No, not at all.
Really has.
Not at all. It's absolutely fabulous.
Because it's our decisions, not the conditions of our life, really, that create our destiny.
Mm-hmm.
Because magic happens when we stretch ourselves and work towards something. It's just incredible, and we're all able to do it. It's brilliant.
and there you are as living.
It's like small steps do create big outcomes, and it's up to you to illustrate the life you want to lead.
We should have got you to do a 60-second CPD.
We should have. You need to get on that inspirational speaker circuit there. I can't wait to see your book when it comes out, Marny. Just don't forget on the dedication to my two best friends, Mike and Julian. Whatever. Don't write
So small
steps, big outcomes.
Big outcomes by Marny Cringle. Pleasure speaking with you, Marny, as it ever is, and it's been lovely to see you, and you see your bright beaming smile and your positivity as ever, undimmed. Yeah. So Marny Cringle, I'd like to say thank you very, very much for joining us, and if you've enjoyed listening to Marny, catch up with her. She's on the internet, and she is available for doing speaking. Her book's coming out next year, Small Steps, Big Outcomes, which we're all looking forward to. And if you've liked what you've heard, don't forget to click like, follow, share it with some friends who also would probably like it. So on behalf of Veterinary Ramblings, Marny Cringle, thank you very much indeed, and may your dog go with you.
May your dog go with you, Mark.
And you also, Mike,
Lovely to meet you.
All right then.
Thank you ever so much.
Bye, Mike. Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for a good morning.
Yeah. All good.
Thank you.
Take care.
Right, see ya.
Bye.
Bye.